Today, we're gonna be brave. Yo, dog, Kenny Bechet here, Next Level Painting. Hitting you up on the literal best of all days on this glorious Friday in the Beats Lab in Hollywood, California. We got another painting tutorial for you. We're hot off the heels of Adepticon 2017, my favorite wargaming convention in the world. Probably the largest in the world at this point. It's amazing. We had a huge, giant size edition of the podcast this week, which by the time you might be seeing this on YouTube was 2 weeks ago, because YouTube comes out 2 weeks later, Patreon comes out on the spot. We did have a giant edition, more length and girth than ever before. You're going to want to check that podcast out. Let me be real with you guys for just 1 second. Thank you guys. Adepticon was so fun. You guys made it mean so much for me. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming up, saying hi, telling me your stories. It meant so much to me. Thank you guys. Adepticon was a blast, and I hope to see you guys in the future. That leads me to another point I want to make here, make it real clear. The state of these videos, the YouTube tutorials, I call them the studio tutorials, that are the produced movie magic here in the Beats Lab. These focus on something different than our Twitch videos. There has been some questions, some confusion. Airbrush tutorials playlist here on YouTube is our studio playlist. Live is all of our VODs from Twitch. The videos here on YouTube, the studio, they're more concise, they're smaller, they focus on singular tasks. We're on Twitch, we do big projects. That's the difference, guys. If you're not on Twitch, get on Twitch. It's literally changing the game. YouTube is fun, it's all fun and games, but like real talk, it takes 10 hours to make a 10-minute video on YouTube. Facts. So I'm still doing them weekly, but we're doing 6 hours over 2 videos a week on Twitch. If you didn't know that, definitely check the links in the description box below for our Twitch links, our rewards page, our Patreon links, everything. I want to do a quick roll call, shout out a couple of clutch individuals over on Patreon. My man Piers, Matthew, Johnny, Justin, and Dark Comedy. You guys came in clutch this week. I can't do it without you. You guys are helping me keep the lights on. Also, thelongword.net. If you're looking for that clutch access to a huge wealth of hobby information, including discount codes to save on the hobby today, check it out. Let's do this thing, guys. We're painting that Sylvaneth Drycha. And you can see we've already painted a lot of the red details on just one side of her body. Ignore the rest for now. We'll talk about that later. Right now, we're going to focus on these honeycomb effects. We're going to be introducing yellow rust via Secret Web Miniatures, one of my favorites. And a little bit of old rust here at the beginning. I'm also going to be using a little Vallejo product here, retarder medium. This helps slow the paint down, doesn't let it dry as fast. And we're going to start the show off with a quick and easy technique called glazing. We're going to basically build a really thin mix of those two colors I showed you, and we're going to introduce retarder so they don't dry so fast. And that gives us more time to manipulate them on the model. I'm going to quote one of my good friends, Jason Craze. He says, glazing like this is basically creating a very thin sheet of plastic, because that's what acrylic paint equates to, is the plastic. So you're making the thinnest sheet of plastic possible and letting it dry. Now, I like the retarder medium because it lets me manipulate it a little longer between the coats, but you do trade dry time for that because you really can't fuck with a glaze until it dries. So we're just painting by numbers now. You can see that we've done a cool series of details on this red arm here, on this bark. Some cool fiery highlights. That is going to be the theme of the model. We're going to go through everything that you see is red, and we're going to introduce these types of highlights to it. And then we're going to go through on these honeycombs, and we're going to introduce this kind of brown base color. And but we're only going to focus on this one arm today in the tutorial. Small, manageable chunks here on YouTube. Now, if you're curious on how we painted these reds, you can always check the links in the description box below. Find us on Twitch, check out the VODs, follow us on Patreon. Everything goes there early and ad-free. But that is kind of the pace that we're maintaining now. We're doing small, manageable tasks here on YouTube and concise studio tutorials and covering big, broad subjects on Twitch. Now that you see that we've established these multiple thin coats across these two platforms here, all we're going to do is wait for it to dry. Now, here's something that's very important. You got to have to manage the pooling inside the honeycomb chambers. So what you do is you basically wipe your brush off and you just poke your paintbrush back in those holes to pull some of that pooling up, because you don't want a bunch of pooling in those. It makes it take forever to dry. It's inconsistent. That's kind of the only weird gotcha bitch of these patterns here. Now, nothing we've done yet requires you to quote unquote be brave. That comes later. Now, since I still have this brown, I'm going to just, slap some on the lady. I'm not going to go and do all the honeycombs because I still got to do all the red highlights, but I will waste some of this brown, run it out on this lady. Very thin coat glaze, work it into her face. Super easy. Like, I'm just trying not to be wasteful here, but she will have the same theme as these honeycombs. All right, now we're good and dry. We're mixing up a new slurry, introducing a little bit more of the yellow rust into our glaze, and we're just doing glaze 2.0, a little bit brighter. And the only reason we're doing this is because I don't want to, going straight to yellow would have just been too difficult. Applying this rusty yellow over this brown we created is a little bit easier. And it's so, the coats are so thin, it's all good, man. And the cool thing about that brownish tone we did is that we used old rust to create that, and there's a little bit of purple in that. Purple has a fun way of interacting with yellows as a shade, which I love. Here we go, painting by numbers. Just getting that maximum coverage. Being careful not to let it pull up in the honeycomb chambers. So far, so good. Hey, maybe we don't have to be brave at all during this video. Maybe it's just going to be easy the whole time. I don't know. Same deal. Let's do the same thing to her big ass beehive shoulder. Now, she does have like a bunch of little bees in the kit floating around her. I fucking hate them. I was like, yo, we ain't putting that on our model today. I don't like them. I do like her honeycombs, though. I think it's fucking hideous and scary. So I do like that. But we are going for this crazy alternate scheme, crazy red bark, cool yellows to offset it. It's just going to be a fun model, man. I can't wait to do more of this on Twitch while we do this here on YouTube for you guys. All right, let's change gears real quick. Let's see what we got here. Airbrush time. Now, what we're doing is we're just using the air, no paint, to seal it up, just to help dry it faster. And then we're going to slowly start introducing the same color. Here we go. It's the same color. And we're now going to do the final couple glazes with the airbrush. This is now it's time to be brave, guys. We're basically applying a thin coat of this mix and then using air to dry it. Then do another thin coat, let the air dry it. So basically we are doing essentially 3 or 4 glaze coats in quick succession with our airbrush. That's what I love about the airbrush. Now you have to get in tight. You have to maximize your control, and you do have to be brave, and you have to trust yourself, and you have to put in the work. Airbrushing is about the mechanical manipulation of the tool and repetition. It's not truly a skill until much later. So there you go. You can see what we did there. We smoothed out some of those glazes with our airbrush, creating that nice, tight transition. Now, I could never have done this with the airbrush prior to the paint brush stages. I would have to try to mask it out with liquid masking, all this crazy shit. I feel like what I just did is maximized. So now we're going to keep building that highlight up. You let it dry, it mutes down, you introduce it again, it's more vibrant. And then we slowly introduce a little bit more yellow rust to the mix and bring that radial highlight from the center out up on those honeycombs. And you can take this highlight as far as you want. Just got to be tight, just got to have control. We're doing 99% air, 1% paint, and then we go back to 100% air, dry it up, go back to 1% paint. And you can see it's building up, it's building up. Totally transition. Something that would take you a billion minutes to try to do with a paintbrush, and you might not even make it this smooth. Some people can, but I can't. That's why I like the airbrush. Here we go. It's time to punch it up a notch, take it to the next level with Flash Gets Yellow. This is currency. It's a commodity in the apocalypse. As far as I'm concerned, this will be gold. So we're going to introduce a little bit of the Flash Gets Yellow, do the same radial burst, try to get that maximized glowing effect. Not necessarily a highlight at this point, but almost like she's being warmed by her inner glow. But that's why we have all the fiery tones, all these warm colors. Literally not even one cool color. We might introduce cool colors on her gems and everything, but for now it's warm on top of warm. The contrast is being created in the hues. We're not even concerned ourselves with any other advanced theories. So look at that Flash Gets Yellow. It's looking phenomenal. Now we're going to take an old school color, Snow White from Minotaur. I love this color. It's kind of a champagne white. And we're going to introduce that into the mix and do one final burst in the centers. Get that final pop, that final next level transition. You may notice at this stage though, it's looking kind of weird and washed out because all the honeycombs on there are also being painted. the inner chambers. Obviously, we have to darken those up. They can't look, I mean, it just doesn't look right. It looks unfinished to have all those chambers not be addressed. No love. So I'm feeling good about this. That arm is looking really good. Super good so far. Now let's introduce one of my favorite new washes. Straight up. Army Painter Quick Shades Dark Tone, which is a black, and mild brown. We're going to mix these together and create a brownish black. And we're going to now start establishing some contrast on these honeycombs by carefully washing out the border transition, delineating between the red bark and the yellow beehive. If you also got any overspray on the red here, this would wash it out. This would fix it. I mean, to an extent. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of this wash and just start introducing it to each one of the chambers. Very light coat here. If you see any pulling, you just come back in and pull it out. We're creating contrast now. Using this brown, like I use brown with a little bit of black to darken it. Going over it. You can do multiple coats here. I might do multiple coats on the border around the comb, but I feel like one thin coat inside the chambers is all we need here to create contrast, to make this look its best. That's kind of like the name of the game here, Next Level Painting, is contrast. How do you create contrast? How do we use bright colors? Basically, that's my plan. Use bright colors at all times. And make dark things darker and bright things brighter. Boom. Nailed it. So let's flip the model over. Let's start establishing that border here in the bottom. You can see here, we're just roping it out. Introduce a little bit more wash in these chambers. Don't worry, I'm not going to do every single chamber here on this video. I'm just going to do a few of them to show you the rhythm and the precision I'm trying to maintain here. You do have to be precise and pay attention because you can't slap that wash on the honeycomb on top, because we just did all that cool airbrushing and we want that to come through. So we're establishing the border on her shoulder. Real easy. Boom. Boom. Get that delineation looking its best. Now, just quick rapid fire, get those honeycombs in. Precision. Pow, pow, pow. Too easy. It is a paint by numbers, which means whenever you hear me say that, that means be careful and don't fuck up the shit you just airbrushed. That's simple. All right, let's take a look at where we're at now that I've bored you with all these honeycomb chambers. We're letting it dry. It's looking pretty good. You can see that transition that we got that would take it would be a nightmare. You know what I'm saying? But I'm feeling pretty good about that as we move forward. Hey guys, do me a quick favor if you don't mind. Here on YouTube, if you're watching this, click the subscribe button. But I'm going to need you to go one step further and click this bell. YouTube has changed some things. Send me notifications to this channel. Whenever I get a new video, you will be notified. You'd be doing me a favor. I'd be trying to do you a favor. Play on, players.